You know what? This is not a fantastic number. It's episode 15. So it's
Really?
yeah, I don't know, fun little
Look at us go.
number. Yeah, based on 5. So I thought, let's kind of do a deep dive. And so what I did is I took all the transcripts from all the past 14 episodes.
You overachiever, you.
And I did nothing with them. No, I put them all into a document and then I uploaded it to chat and I asked it a bunch of fun questions based upon our transcripts.
I was thinking about doing that. I'm glad you beat me to it.
Yeah. So I got some fun stuff that we can go through. Some like top words, fun facts, insights into who we are, a little quiz that somebody could take and see, are you more like Dom or more like Gabe? And then
I'm a little nervous here. So, hey, friends, welcome to the show. We're just going to keep right on going. It's the Dom and Gabe Crack House. No, I'm sorry. The Dom and Gabe Nut Show. I mean, Coffee House. Coffee Show. We should hit the road.
Yeah. Let's hit all the cities, major user cities.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So we have we've had 14 episodes and we've talked a lot about a lot of stuff, each one about an hour long. So I had plenty of juice to feed into chat and have it. At first I put it through and I unfortunately put it in as a PDF. And so the way chat received it was like garbly-gook, and it was like, your most said word was XZZZYY4. I'm like, okay, that's not what I said. So I ran it again as a Word doc. And it's tough because it says the top 50 words Dom and Gabe say the most. So, yeah.
This is going somewhere.
Number 1 is no, KNOW. We said it. Do you want to guess how many times we've said it across 14 episodes? I know lots of things.
I don't know.
3,126 times we've said the word.
Now, okay, hold on. It is a transcript, so it could mix up.
It could.
Like a decline with.
Yes. I want to say that. So mix in, this immediately jumped to my head. A phrase that is said, you've said it one way, I've said it one way. And tell me when you say take this with a grain of salt, or I don't know if it was you or Chris who says take this and add some salt to it. What is the phrase and where does what's the proper, I always thought it was take this with a bit of not skepticism, right?
Yeah, exactly. Take it with skepticism. So what's your question?
So the question is, what is the phrase? Is it take it with a bit of salt or add some salt to it?
I have never
They
heard
both mean the same.
Salt. I mean,
okay, so
if you salt things, or that means you're seasoning them, you're making them more
interesting.
That's what
I mean. Okay.
To take it with a grain of salt means, what would actually, now that I think about it, to take something with a grain of salt would probably mean put some of your own skepticism into whatever it is you're ingesting.
I was thinking hey, here's a pie and take it with a grain of salt. So this is sweet, but don't dive in full. I don't know. But I thought it was funny. I heard that, maybe, I don't know who I heard from. It says, take this, but add some salt to it. I'm like, what?
Never
just slightly. It's like uncanny
so
valley.
If I run the math numbers, and because I'm a math genius, I now have a figure that I don't understand. So if we do 15 episodes, although actually it's 14.
14.
All right, fine. We'll start again. So if we have 14 episodes times about 60 minutes, that's 840. So then if we do 3,000 times divided by 840, that leads us 3.5.
Yeah, about 3 times a minute we say the word no.
Which now I'm second guessing my entire life. What did we actually talk about in all these episodes?
That's an insane figure to think that every episode we say it 223 times. I know. So.
Well, okay. In that context, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? So
there you go.
So I'll run through, no.
This is definitely a cerebral show, folks.
Yeah. We know lots of things.
Yeah.
Clearly. We say it so many times. Yeah was said 1,388 times. Don't 1,000 times. And then he goes, think, going, thing, kind, and something. But if we want to go down, we said stuff 392 times. The rest, it's all just filler words. I couldn't get to the bottom of we said something 20 times. So that was the top. It was fun to see that we said no, the word, the one we all know and love. I thought it was funny. It said great moments and observations. So it says Dom is the thoughtful philosopher dad. Deep dives into subscription models, mold toxicity, and parenting as emotional transformation. And he's famous for this is a metaphor for life, mid-sentence pivots.
It's not accurate at all.
And then look at it, just gave me, did me dirty. It said Gabe is the curious comedy Catholic dad. I'm like, okay. Pokemon card fanatic with existential dread. Like, like that's what it got for me. And then
that's why we're like tripping down the hill of Rick Road together. It's like,
I thought this is cool. We get some show Hall of Fame stats. And I agree with this one. The most philosophical sentence that we have said was, the obstructions are not the path, they are the path. And I believe you said that.
yeah,
I don't think I would have said something something so profound. Then it said, I didn't ask for this, but I even thought of this. It says weirdest segment idea. So what do you think was like one of the weirdest segments that we had introduced? A topic point. Basically, it's just like, think of like a thing that was brought up that they thought was the weirdest thing that we said.
No, because I deliberately try to be weird every episode. So I just don't know.
Well, that favor fell to my side of the court.
Okay.
When I said mythical creatures and their probable religions.
Oh yeah. That was pretty fun.
It went on longer. It said that was the most obscure thing ever mentioned in the show. Like, okay, why is it throwing shade at me? But yeah, there's so then I uploaded and then I asked it Enneagram types. I said, based upon our conversations, what can you think? Just to see what it said. It says Dom is a likely type 4 with a 5 wing. Okay. Isn't that accurate?
It's pretty close. Yeah, I think I'm a 5 with a very strong 4
wing.
Okay.
Well, it says based upon the,
yeah.
We can only give so much.
That's cool. What about you?
And it said, let's see, but Gabe, likely a type 7 with a 6 wing, which I think is pretty accurate. Yeah.
I think and so
then they said they're representative lines. So yours was obstructions are not obstacles, they are the path. And then sometimes I just need to be a gorilla and say, this is my house. That was the line.
I don't know if you saying that.
Did I say that or you say that? The thing is, it doesn't know.
A comment about gorillas.
Yeah. Okay, I think it was, yeah. That's the thing. There's no like,
the transcripts don't have the voices broken out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it does a pretty good job. One time it mixed them up. And then my representative lines was, I thought the Yeti was Buddhist because he just wants peace and silence unless there's a threat to his family.
Waking up on a Monday morning and just walking around the house saying that.
So like, this most clearly defines who you are. Your crazy lunacy. And then one of the show's representative lines was, would you love me if I were a worm? It's pretty good. But yeah, I don't know.
That's hilarious.
It was cool. Yeah. And then I like how it made a whole quiz. We could even put this quiz up somewhere if we want. It's just things like 10 questions, 8 questions. You answer A or B. And at the end, you see if you're more like me or you. It's kind of fun, right?
Can we run them ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to try it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Question 1. What do you reach for when life feels overwhelming? A, a blank journal, some chill music, and a good metaphor about trees. Or B, a Pokemon binder, a new side project, or a Wikipedia rabbit hole. I wonder
who is who here. Oh, that's funny. Hey, friends in the comments, Gabby, shout out to Gabby. If you want to have a go at this quiz and don't go on any answers based by our reactions.
No, not at all. That was, so that's 1. What do you reach for when life feels overwhelming? Ready for 2?
Yeah, go.
Your coffee order says something ethically sourced, low tox, maybe with raw milk, and a little existential dread on the side.
Chat loves that phrase. Existential, just loves it.
And they pile it on me. I'm like, come on, I'm just trying my best over here. Or B, hot, fast, and fun. Bonus points if it fuels creative mayhem. So that's your coffee order choice. Something ethically sourced or hot, fast, and fun. Question 3. When it comes to ideas, you A, dwell on them until they become a story or a crisis. Or B, launch them, forget them, launch 5 more.
Okay, so now they're varying it up now.
I know. Now they're
so
twisting
I'm
the lines.
Definitely B here, right? You wouldn't identify with B, would you?
I don't know. I think they're making me screwy on my own personality. Yeah, I think I'd be more like A in that scenario. Because I think you are the
probably just keep shipping half-baked stuff.
Question 4. Your favorite compliment would be A, you made me feel deeply seen. Or B, you made me laugh until I cried.
Probably A for me, I think.
And it's where I it's funny. It's really kind of like putting me into a notch hole right here. If that's a phrase. Uh, I like the first one, but I would always say this second one was always like
Mhm.
my thing. I guess we do have overlap. We are human, and we do share similarities.
Yeah.
Choose your
I mean,
comfort TV.
I
Oh,
like how, like with our show, it's um, almost the one project that I get to kind of create with somebody else, where we
yeah.
basically laugh through stuff. And so
Yep.
I like the idea of trying to see somebody through laughter,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or
Yeah.
maybe in truly seeing somebody, it's not all um, crying and tissues on what's the name of that lady's show? I can't remember. On the View or something.
Borders buried alive.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's not the right example. No, but I also like it because I think we talk about such. Like, I mean, I don't. There's a few people in life that I talk about the things I talk about with you. Just because we get into it and we're very open and like we're free enough that you would let me make a suggestion of the Yeti being Buddhist, and then we could go to like deep Catholic
Also
theology.
safely air gapped so that you can never reach out and just bitch slap me for a stupid take on something.
Well, vice versa. I mean, like that's why chat. Like, it really went on to the Yeti thing. I thought it was a funny thing, but chat seemed to think it was lunacy. But then I like how life's hard enough, especially with kids, especially with all the stuff we're dealing with, that we can lay it on the table and then laugh about it. I think. I mean, that's how I've always tried to approach things, and I like people who I gravitate towards people who do that. And a quick story: a friend of mine who had passed away recently, um, on his deathbed, the priest was giving him his final rites, and and he was about to come uh into the room, and he was saying like, are you prepared? Is there anything you want to say? But kind of asking him questions, and my friend said to him, "Hey, Father," he goes, "Yes." What is it? He goes, "You're jealous, aren't you?" He goes, "I'm gonna go see Jesus." And the person was like, "What the heck?" It was just like that I love incorporating that humor. It's just that, life is intense, and it's awesome, and it's sad, and it's hard, but at the same time it's something to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
So
All right, so we got a tangent here. Um, there is every holiday I get very existential because I'm so full of dread and thinking about like why we celebrate these holidays at all and stuff.
yeah.
And I'm thinking about um, so a little bit to like your point. There's a hilarity, a hidden hilarity to the mystics. Because they've kind
Yeah.
of seen the source code, they've seen the cheat code of life, and they're not worried about anything. Okay, yeah, life is still hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's this one quote from Teresa of Avila where somebody asks her, like, "Man, you have these day trips to the red fiery down below, and it's awful, isn't it?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's pretty awful." It's like, "Man, how many people are down there?" And she's like, "Well, there's actually nobody down there anymore." You know, and I don't know where that quote is from, but
Yeah.
apparently Saint Teresa of Avila had that to say. There's this humor and there's this fun that they have. So I was thinking over the weekend, like we're watching this Easter egg hunt and just thinking, why do we do this at all? Like, why do people who are not even religious at all, why do they observe? And I'm going to keep calling them the great liturgies of our culture.
Yeah.
Right. And I was
Yep.
thinking, what are the four major liturgies of our culture? There's Halloween, Christmas, Easter, and Valentine's. And if there's another one, what's another like major feast throughout the year? Maybe St. Patrick's Day, but we'll set
Maybe.
that one.
Yeah.
That's like a
Yeah.
second tier.
Second idea.
Sorry, Irish people. I'm Irish. I can say that. I get to say that. But he's not as big as Christmas, obviously.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So I was just thinking how I'm thinking of actually writing an article, and it would be something like the great liturgies of the common people when there's no religion left, and
Yeah.
how even if you take away everything, we still show up and we sacrifice and we pay money to decorate our homes and to go through these ritual acts with our kids and with our
Mm-hmm.
families. And I'm just thinking like, why at all? Why is
I've
this important? Go.
Oh, well, and I have a thought. I mean, we've
Yeah.
talked about this before, like the
Hmm.
axioms of truth, and like
Hmm.
how there's these pillars of like just human nature that these touch upon. So you have, Christmas, a time of giving and community and bonding and homemaking, and so there's a deep need that we have of, especially in a lot of or not a lot, portions of the world with the northern hemisphere where it's cold. It's a time to gather together. So I think that's why it's so easy to attach to, because it's such a time of hope and joy and giving. And then Easter is just another time like that of new beginnings, fresh starts. Spring is here. So it's like they're pinnacle shifts in the year, not even religious based, but just emotion based and mental based. I think there's just such an easy thing to grab a hold of, and I think all of them are community based, and we like
They
to do things that
absolutely are. Yeah, they are community based, and so yes, I think that is very true. So for me, because I'm a little existential, that chat has ruined this word for me. I tell you, 'cause it thinks it's so deep and philosophical, but
yeah, it knows
it doesn't
nothing.
think.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't
maybe
know
there's
me.
too many podcasts out
You're
there
not my
using
mom.
it, and they're skewing the data sets. But
Yeah.
what about your mom?
No, I'm saying you're not my mom.
Oh, so
What
I
about
was
your
thinking,
mom?
with each one of these uh, celebrations, there is a specific action. There's an act that we take in each one of them that we observe. And apart from Valentine's Day, almost all of them involve kids. And I was thinking, we all stand around and basically watch the kids do these things, and maybe we participate in that. Like, okay, Christmas, everybody's giving gifts. Easter egg hunts, grown-ups aren't doing that. You can even argue it's not even 100 years old. I think that there's something that happens. It's like, religion is taken away and Santa Claus remains.
Yeah.
I think it's because there are specific ideas that are so deeply human that you cannot take them away. And even if they get co-opted by massive capitalist systems, we will still show up and keep them alive because we recognize there's something so deeply human and needed
Yeah.
about these celebrations and these messages that if they were taken away, life would be unbearable as an idea at all. And
Yeah.
so I was charting, well, then what are the big ideas within these four things that basically the whole country comes together to celebrate these
Mhm.
things? And if we were to lose them, life would be awful.
Yeah. Well,
Go
I
ahead.
think
What are
it's
you thinking?
also I'm thinking even nowadays, the more and more modern society pushes against each other, we look for these areas that allow us to group together with there's no point of contention, I should say. Like the Olympics, I think it's always a big one. It's just it's a thing that you can rally behind no matter what country, creed, point of view, because you can't be opposed against when people play basketball. There's no political stance, there's no religious stance, there's no, that. So I think that's one of the reasons why people love the Olympics so much. It's like finally we could all just watch people play sports. It doesn't matter who's doing what in the world and who's doing crazy. And so even with like Halloween, though there's topics to be discussed of in religious circles, but like these holidays they've gone across religious lines to be like
Right.
it's just something that we could just enjoy, because when
Yeah.
you look at it as a holiday, Christmas, even from a non-Christian perspective, the essence of what is being done on Christmas you can't really oppose, right? Gift giving, joy, love, peace. How could you oppose that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's so many things like that. That's why people love like American Idol or, any show that you can ride behind, because like there's no point of contention, and maybe there's spots here and there, but you're watching something that is void of uh political or what's
Bias.
schismatic divisions. Yeah.
Right. See, people, we know lots of things.
We know lots of words. I said schismatic.
There you go. Skewing the data set for our next 15.
Yeah.
So here's my thought. And it was this, I think maybe. So you said something which I think is exactly it. It's the idea that there's these things that we can all buy into. It doesn't matter your religious
Mhm.
background, which we all look at that and we all recognize that's true. As a human being, I recognize that's true. And so I will, um, keep this going. But there's a lot of it that's inducting children into things, inducting children into life, and of course, each other. So yesterday I was trying to think, what is the really big idea behind all of these things? Maybe it's this: life is really hard. And if you don't have literally the right ideas between your ears, you're going to mess up a lot of things. If you don't have the right habits that you live out, um, you're going to have a much harder life than perhaps you need to. Even if you don't want to believe in things like from the great beyond and all, even if you don't believe in things outside of what you might immediately experience and stuff like that, we still show up and we celebrate these things. And so the reason is why with Christmas, you're like saying to a child and then to each other, welcome, because you're here, here's gifts.
Yeah.
That's it. You didn't
Yep.
necessarily have to earn
You didn't
them.
earn it.
Now there is a
Exactly.
conversation around whether you should
Sure.
give a coal or not. I'm actually,
Sure.
this is a conversation we can have around Christmas. I'm
Hmm.
not actually sure if I agree with that anymore. I don't know. And I'm willing to have
Yeah.
that poked at and kicked around.
Yeah.
But I like the core message of you're here. It's like you landed, you've arrived in creation. Welcome. Here's gifts. And
Exactly.
it's the passing on of existing generation, passing things on to the next
Mhm.
generation, giving them a head start
Well,
and a helping
that
hand, right?
and the cold conversation is actually a really good one because it's especially on the Christian backbone of the holiday. Christ didn't come because we earned it at all. It's quite the opposite. It's almost like the kid who messed up all year long. Quite the opposite. They should earn coal on the holiday that celebrates Christ coming to save the world. He should be getting gifts, not because he was bad, but because he's a
In
kid and
spite of the badness. It's like the sun continues to shine on good and bad all
exactly.
day
I
anyway.
was I was just thinking, like, to myself, like, how I was talking about my wife about our kids and, like, how I would love to raise them in this and the way and that. I would so badly wish that they can go into the world knowing that they are loved for who they are. That's one. Their value is not based upon what they do or what they say or how they act, or they're loved because they're them. And that's something we've tried to tell them, like, I love you because you're my son. I love you because you're my daughter. That doesn't change. And the other thing is that though the world can be scary or presented as scary, that we have this eternal hope and joy that you can go through anything, no matter what the world says in the news or what's happening, and you can go with this everlasting hope. I feel like I thought I struggle with that. So if I can give that to them, that they can go and see a newspaper report of something horrific and still be like, there's still a good
Mhm.
tomorrow ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would count that a win.
I I agree. I agree with that. I think that something like what Christmas is, it's like pattern interrupt, like what parents do. Like sometimes you're having to discipline your child, and sometimes you can get into like a spiral where they do something wrong, and then you have to punish them to course correct or reprompt them back into like better behavior, and then they get mad, and then they keep doing the wrong thing, and then it builds a habit, and then all of a sudden everything's just going, bad,
Yeah.
and you're spiraling. And there's a point at which a parent might have to go, I need to take everybody out for ice cream because we all just like need to feel together what it's
Uh-huh.
like when everything's good, even if you
Yep.
haven't earned squat.
Yep.
Sometimes we just need to like,
100% agree.
and not only does God do this a lot with us, and we'll have stories in scripture where this happens, but I think it's an insanely valuable message to be able to tell like a new child who's forming in the world to go, and they're like kind of looking at the rest of the human community and going, what can I expect about being alive? And to be able to say, even in its hardest moments, creation welcomes you and gifts you and blesses you and is
Yeah.
glad that you're here because it is
Yeah.
good for you to be here. That message, ah,
Oh, that they
that
have a
I
seat at
love
the
that.
table.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like
And so
that's
then
the
I'm
biggest
thinking, well,
message.
what
Yeah.
is that? What happens to the rest of these messages? Like this all seems like really, really important
It
stuff.
all
So then you
builds.
then you go to Easter, and we were watching the Easter egg hunt, and okay, forget the bunny and forget, let's say that everybody's forgotten the message of, what the Easter's all really about and stuff.
Mhm.
What's maybe a deeper message? And it's the idea that life of itself is, it cannot be repressed and it always returns. And
Mm.
what's the point of an Easter egg hunt? It's that life will always surprise you, and you won't know where to find it, and you can walk right by it. Um, and it will always come back, and it will always be a source of delight and a source of
Yeah.
newness. And sometimes that can be in you, and it can be in your environment, your circumstance, things that you learn, or something like that. Just that idea of life is always returning, always surprising. Um, and that, yeah, just like the number of times you walk right by something and then you turn around, oh, there it is. And it was there the whole time, but it was quietly blooming and just doing its own thing, or just quietly sitting there
Yeah.
waiting to be discovered, because that's what an egg is, right? It's a
Mhm.
life seed. So the idea
Yep.
of life everywhere, this as opposed to our common understanding of the universe, which is basically everything is dead with a very
Yeah.
thin smear of like some sort of biofilm on top of everything
Randomness.
that
Yeah.
kind of keeps us alive, but
Yeah.
functionally everything is dead, as opposed to an Easter mindset, which is no, the universe is alive even when you're not looking. And when you turn
Exactly.
around,
Yeah.
you're going to be surprised by, look, there's a new thing that's just alive. That's going
Well,
to,
yeah.
I didn't control that. And it just, life keeps happening in the
Well,
best sense.
how much is that the Easter message too? That's what I was kind of contemplating. I was going on a walk this morning and I was doing the rosary, and it's the joyful mysteries and how, coming out of Easter, obviously, Christ died and then was absent or gone, from earth, for, until Easter Sunday when he rose. And it's a time where, like, when there's nothingness and silence and you think nothing's happening, it's all hope is lost. And like when you feel like nothing is happening, you feel like there's nothing to look forward to. And like that's the Easter message. Like on the contrary, like when Christ was, and I took my kids to, we went to confession, and so you're in the church, and I was like looking up, and I was about ready to, genuflect, and remember like, oh yeah, he's not here, he's not in the tabernacle, and I thought to myself like how it was a sadness too, like almost like my gosh, I thinking about that, like I didn't really think that like about that moment. But this, what I'm getting at is that while he was absent from earth, he was almost like working double time on our behalf. You know what I mean? Like, during that time of his death, he was working on our behalf and moving and fighting for us, and then only to come all the more powerful, all the more glorified. And so I think about and then this morning praying, when Jesus was lost, or when Joseph and Mary lost Jesus in the temple as a child, he's gone for 3 days, and you're like, oh gosh, like something's wrong. He's gone. It's scary. It's like but they didn't realize that he was doing the Lord's work, and he was working, and he was doing what's bad. So when they got to him, it's like, I'm working here. It's just, and so I kind of took that into my own life, like these times when there's this absence and silence and I'm trying to like really reflect on it as of today, that the times of silence are not nothingness or stillness necessarily. They could be times of great activity. We're just not aware of it. And so going back to the Easter egg hunt, in the stillness of the bushes, and we think nothing's going on, but right behind it is this fullness of life and this joy and these treats that that's where our kids, that behind the bushes where's all the eggs.
Right.
And it's just
Right.
so great weekend of reflection, and to have that kind of come to mind was
I think so too.
very
And I think it's
joyful.
not only important, like we teach children this is what life is about. And like, it's like one day a year. As adults, obviously, we're supposed to try to live this more frequently, supposed to, which would
Mhm.
even be the sense that even with other people, we're like, where's the Easter eggs in other people? And not just in a
Yeah.
pop culture sense, but
Oh,
like,
that's
even
good,
when
yeah.
there's nobody, like I look at a person or something and I think, you're washed up. Heck, I'm washed up.
I know.
And then to have somebody go,
Same.
no, you're still here. You're still alive.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
Maybe with a little bit of digging, maybe a little bit of searching, we can pull out and find a good thing. And so that
Mhm.
sense of never giving up on somebody else,
Yeah.
that seems and also feels like an Easter message, living out. Again, this is almost irrespective of one's religious traditions, but more like,
No, just
and
human.
even not just on a human level, thinking about what this means to be alive at all in this
Yeah.
whole universe thing. So then go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say that made me think, and if I could pull back the curtain a little, not too much out of my personal life, just I think you're always living to not show the world your worst qualities, right? You're always trying to, bring your best, and not, you hide the. And I had a beautiful, vulnerable moment with a friend of mine. Well, I've had with you many times, but with another friend, I just had a moment where that curtain was pulled back, and you saw my worst moment. You're just coming out and being very vulnerable, and to have him say, and you've said this to me before, it's not uncommon, but it was more recent. I like you even at your worst moment. I love you at your worst because you're still Gabe. To have that blessing given to me from somebody is like, that's what we all truly deep down desire. That when my worst is shown, am I still going to be accepted at the table? And I think that, like, again, this season, and it's that, and what we want as humans to this message is that our worst doesn't define us, and we're not discarded because of our worst moments, our worst failures. That there is hope, um, even when we've messed up tremendously. That's
Yeah.
not over yet.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know, that triggered me into
No, that
that.
it's like like you say, having a seat at the table, wanting to be at the table
Yeah.
seems like it's the ticket in from the
Yep.
Christian sense, as
Yep.
opposed to all the people like, no, I've just bought new oxen. I don't even want to be at the table. I just got married. I just got all this extra stuff I'm doing. And like, you had your
Yeah.
RSVP notice thing
Mhm.
ahead of time and you, yeah, didn't care. Yeah. Wow.
So that well, that, I mean, that was such a beautiful tangent
Well,
that we
almost there.
discussed.
I'll just burn through
Yeah,
the
please,
last
please.
two.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
talked
yeah.
about Halloween before, so it won't go too
Yeah.
long. But the same sense of what's the ritual, what's the message of Halloween is that even though life is scary, if you walk up
Mm.
to it and face it, you can turn
Yeah.
that into gold.
That's
You can, and so it's like
that's
funny
a
to
good
have a
one. I
whole
like that.
community, um, dress up in scary face masks and scary paint and stand at a door to literally try to terrify a kid. And the parents go, no, walk into the mouth of the dragon. Face your fears. Go face the scariest thing life has to offer. If you stand here at the curb, you're just going to stay scared the rest of your life. But if you walk up to that thing, something magical happens. The face paint cracks and the person smiles and they whip out candy and they pass it to you. And the whole community comes together to go,
Wow.
kids, this is life.
Yeah.
You show up, you walk up to your scariest things, and that you can like ladder this up to like a Wall Street, boardroom and walking up to your
Yeah.
CEO. He feels like an absolute gorgon, but you walk up to him and maybe you boldly ask for the thing that you would like, and you promise not to TP his lobby.
Exactly.
And maybe you get chocolate
Yeah.
or a promotion or whatever. Definitely don't TP
Yeah.
his lobby.
No,
So
don't do that.
as a message, I think that is insanely vitally important.
Do you know what I
Because
think
how many of us, especially, so we're men, especially as young men, we don't ask what we want. This is
Yeah.
I need to
No.
avoid that tangent. Just stay there on that message. So, like, just sort of wrapping up a little bit. Life, maybe overall, life is hard. That's basically what you get with modern philosophers. Life is hard, red in tooth and claw. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we still have to live
What
here.
else? Yeah.
What else? Okay, so welcome. Here are gifts to help you and to affirm that it is good to be you and good for you to be here, and we want you. And then you'll always be surprised by life. Life is good. It always returns. And where you least expect it, if you can learn to pay attention, you will be surprised by what you discover. And then if you face up to your fears and if you go into doing the things that are hard, good things will come because of it. Right?
Beautiful.
Aren't those
That was
amazing ultimate lessons?
so good.
And that's
if you
why-
had that ingrained into your heart as a child, you're set on a good path.
That's why I think we continue to celebrate these over and over and over.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one that comes to mind the most is Valentine's Day, which I think is the other, maybe the biggest kind of
I would think so.
major
Yeah.
celebration. This is
that
the
was the
one
one
that
I
is
could think
not
of.
mediated to children, but it is, I think, very much towards when the child becomes the grown-up. It's like you're now facing like everything all in one.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, as I'm just talking through it out now, that's kind of weird. It's like all of the celebrations are now distilled down into one. What's the most terrifying thing is going out and asking your girl, because you have no idea how that's going to go and what's going to be asked of you, what you're going to have to sacrifice. It can feel like a Halloween moment. And but then like if you do it, it will not only feel like a Christmas, right? There will be a chance for a wonderful relationship. There's life that can generate and can happen because of it. And then out of this relationship that you both intentionally choose and cultivate towards each other, you can start to notice and be like a seedbed for life and all kinds of new things. So you're going to go from being, what are the words I'm trying to use here? It's like without this one celebration of Valentine's Day, and obviously this is kind of a marital dating love making Song of Songs kind of thing. Without this thing, none of the others can like happen. And so we raise up kids to be able to get them to this point, because this now allowed us, hey, let's get existential, right? This is like the major theme of like, I keep thinking like, why are we alive at all? What are the major things that we're called to do while we're alive? I know it's to know, love, and serve God and be happy here and Sunday school stuff, but like, what's the thing I can bond with every other human being over?
Yeah.
Where we can just sit down and go, okay, we agree, this is why we're all here. And I come back to two things, which I think are universally human. And that would be, we need to eliminate suffering and create safe places for life to continue. And without those two bedrocks, you can't build anything on top of that. And so it's like, if you anchor those two, and we've created these safe, in many ways where we are in America, right? We've almost handled those. Now we get stuck in other side things, but those two things are now sort of solved. And now we need these other liturgies that kind of come in and go, got to keep having babies, and then keep telling them it is good to be alive and pay attention to nature and face your fears, or pay attention to creation.
Well, I think there's something that goes off of that in
St. Patrick's Day. Drink beer because beer is good and
feel good, feel alive, feel Guinness.
There you go.
But one of the biggest things from Valentine's Day is the message you're saying, like across religious messages, that you give love to receive it in a way. And it's even like, the Christian message to love your neighbor. So like one of a universal, like, thing that we could pull from all these is just to, there's so many nuances, but to love first. I think that's even for kids, that's kind of the start to that. Like in class when they give their, Valentine's Day notes, like when you give it, you're much more likely to get it. It's like you take the stand first, though it's intimidating and to tell somebody that you like them, even if opposite sex or same sex, if it's a friend or a romantic sense, like to do that is intimidating. But when you do that, you open up the opportunity to receive it back. Um, even in a child's level, when you start the topic of Valentine's Day, like in schools, like making Valentine's Day notes, and you make that start to get the message across that when you give love, you're more likely to receive it. And that how intimidating it is to talk to even a friend, not even a remote or romantic sense, just a friend to say, "Hey, I like you. You're a cool person." It's intimidating. It's hard, but once you do that, I mean, your own life, like when somebody's come up to you and say, "Hey, you're kind of a cool guy," you're me like, "You're a cool guy." It's like once you've received that love, you're more likely to give it. So I think that message, I'm saying that's what I was trying to tie it together, is
Yeah,
that
yeah. I think you're
love
absolutely
one
right.
another.
I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot more to Valentine's, and I've been very slowly sort of like unpicking all of the stitching of my own ideas to
Sure, yeah.
think through them. And Valentine's is like the one festival that I think I probably have a conflicted relationship with because my family didn't know what to do with it growing up.
Yeah, it's a tough one, yep.
That being said, um, it would also, what am I trying to say? I actually get really annoyed at the purists with every celebration. Like, Chris, this
Mm,
is the actual meaning of Christmas, and they want to
yeah.
run everything back to its origins, and then we get confused about the origins. Like with Valentine's Day, it's about a decapitated priest writing letters to encourage people to stay together. I'm like, okay,
Like,
that's how things
okay.
might start, but
Yeah.
we might discern at some point, and there's a point. This is why it's so weird and fascinating, where the sort of collective unconscious of a people recognize there's something there that I don't fully understand, but we're going to keep living it out and maybe it'll
Yeah.
become clear later. It's
Yep.
like that's just, you know. So just walking through this now with you, and I think you've helped me see something about like Valentine's Day. It's not just for young people. It's obvious and like just married people or dating people. What if it was not so the definition in Christian culture, right? That a sacrament is an outward sign of an inward grace. It's a like
Yeah.
a exterior
Yep.
manifestation of what is happening on the inside. So what if Valentine's Day is sort of a sacramental it's an outward sign of the core idea that humans are supposed to, in an ideal world, relate to each other through the heart,
Yeah.
not just
Yep.
through the mind, not just through tribal identities, but that we're supposed to relate to each other through uh, you matter. And if we can figure out a way to understand what the meaning of love is, we're
Mm,
supposed to love each
yeah.
other
Well, and
first.
then you go through a whole, my gosh, when you go through a whole year of liturgical celebration, you get such milestones that build up the human character. So Valentine's Day, we start from the beginning, you love one another, love first to then receive it. Then go into Easter, like you have new beginnings. Life is full of joy and hope and prosperity. And then I'm kind of skipping around. Halloween, face your deepest, darkest fears, because on the other side of that is joy and experience and learning. And then Christmas, you have a seat at the table and all are welcome, that you are valued and there's hope to be shared and love to be had. And so it's like you go through a full year of that. You get such core lessons that I am valuable, I am valued, I am loved, I can connect, I can face fears. There is like you build and you do that year after year after year in the right way. Well, then you have a mindset of loving others. I have a seat at the table. So confidence, love, creativity, fun, joy.
And
It's funny how you just kind of broke that down like
it
that.
seems like I am just sad that none of this was like shared with me earlier on. Now, maybe,
Yeah.
okay, the habits, the rituals were shared
No,
with
but
me
same.
from earlier on, but it's like how wonderful it is to have communities of adults and we sort of get together as a village to effectively raise our kids. I mean, that's what you're doing when you're walking around with your kids and you're having them
Yeah.
go up to Mrs. O'Grady and ask
Yep.
for the candy, or let's all go caroling, or let's all have a community Easter egg hunt. And,
Together. Yeah.
you know, um, And then Valentine's Day, let's all give each other little, heart-shaped reminders. Okay, maybe 100 years ago, or I don't know. It was all
Whatever.
absolutely
Yeah.
about like dating and flowers and stuff. But now, 100 years later, I could absolutely see it being, how should humans at the deepest level relate to each other?
Yeah.
It should be,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Now, I think what may be needed now is we need to think of, what are the new rituals? What are the new rubrics?
Yeah.
The things that we then do. Like, we've got an Easter egg hunt. That makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. What do we have for Easter? Besides everybody jumping on the cool train of like, I'm single, I'm celebrating myself this Valentine. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, the point of the ritual or the celebration is to do something different as a community. So I think that might be a part of the year that we're still building into,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
this is where I think it's like ironic and funny that all of the businesses that are taking all the money and they're printing all of the stuff and the garbage that they just want to, sell and so on.
Yeah.
And it's like, we buy it anyway, not just because we're stupid, but because we recognize this is important. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't fully get it, but it does bind the family together. And I don't
Yeah.
exactly know maybe what I'm doing. And the kids are spoiled brats anyway. And dang it, why do I need to give him chocolate because he was
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
last week? But like, well, we're going to do it anyway. Sometimes I
Yeah.
wonder if it's because there's like deeper sort of mythic level stuff acting on us. And I think that when you take it away or don't observe it, I think the world is the worse for it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yep.
Massive side tangent on stuff I was thinking over this weekend.
No, I think that that it's such in a great way led from like who we are to like what we think, which is obviously going to come out. And it's funny because that's the thing, in our quiz of who we are. The next thing is like our spirituality type, or
Oh, yeah.
in Comfort
That's
TV.
interesting.
Yeah. So I'll skip over Comfort TV for now because I think they mixed up who we are. They gave us either charger. We have the same. They gave me Psych and they gave you
Okay.
Chuck Norris or so. So skip that. Your spirituality is A, quiet, poetic, wrestling with big questions in solitude, or B, bold, curious, always learning, and occasionally hilarious. And that was another one that I thought was a bit. It can go both ways.
Yeah.
Which
It does feel like it can go both ways.
Yeah, because there's times where like just this morning I was
You'll
very
spend a lot of time very
I'll
quietly
say,
thinking through stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like, and then the bold, curious, and always learning. I think that we have a shared. So that one I think is a split down the middle. It depends on it depends on what facet of our spirituality we're wrestling with. I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Which sounds more like your inner voice? A, there's meaning in the mess. Let's sit with it. Or B, this mess is hilarious. Let's make a video about it. They kind of just ripped. They ripped off one of my videos that I made about cleaning up a mess. I think, but I think we get both. There's again shared sides to that.
Yeah,
And
it's like if they won't stop talking, just like let's make more content out of it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And then the last was, what's your ideal creative project? A powerful essay or podcast on suffering and redemption, or a comedy skit uploaded 8 months late. They just
Verbatim.
or are you a weirdo like Gabe? Fart. So that's introspective takes on us. Then so there's a lot more. We don't have to. We could kind of sprinkle through, but like they did, 20 hot takes we can do. We could
Well, we got 15 minutes. You want to
I'm
grab
saying we could
one?
do a couple 2-3. Yeah. The top one was, so I think what it did is it took like opinions we had said and just concretized them into a hot take. And this one I liked. So number one, the eat the frog productivity rule is overrated. That's our hot take. I mean, anything else? I think that was like, it's not always just like bite the bullet, eat the frog, do the hard thing. It's like, no, you gotta like love yourself a little bit. Gosh,
By the
get
way,
out of this
who
like
the heck
regimen.
out there is eating frogs? I mean, I can understand
Where'd
biting
that come
bullets.
from? Why would that be purposeful? Yeah, just eat the frog. Just do it.
This might be totally random. I learned of an old hack that people used to do for keeping milk fresh for up to weeks.
Okay.
And they would put a frog in the milk.
What?
Yeah. Now, very clean frog. The reason why was,
what's the reason?
So I'm like thinking Pollyanna, early 150 years ago or something. I have not slowed down to research if this is true or not, but here's the working theory, because it was Instagram at about 2 in the morning. Um, we know we should definitely trust that, but here's the working
This is
theory.
fact. This is fact.
Frogs have their skin is a permeable membrane, so they cannot
Okay.
stay in toxic environments at all. So
Okay.
if a river becomes polluted or something, they all have to get out of it. So, which is interesting about Egypt, actually, the plagues. Anyway, so what they do on their skin is they create a special antimicrobial solution that sits on their skin that keeps them
Okay.
healthy and stops anything bad from getting in or
Oh,
getting out.
okay.
So as gross as we might like to think of them, I think we're not talking toads with their big warty poisonous skins. These are
Ugh.
frogs.
Frogs. Come on,
And
people. Get your head
I'm
out of the
thinking like,
gutter.
hey, I wonder if there's an extra meaning here with Princess
Eating
and
the
the
frog.
Frog. So what people would do is they would take their pitcher of milk and they put a frog in it. And what the frog would do is what's on their skin apparently is safe for us to consume. And it would keep the milk from ever developing
Like a harmful bacteria or
harmful
something?
bacteria. Now, also, raw milk lasts a lot longer than pasteurized milk.
Sure.
And raw milk doesn't effectively go bad. It cultures and it becomes what is the sour buttermilk,
The
right?
thing.
And
Go
so
ahead.
it natures and it matures and so on.
Yeah.
And so frogs will help keep it clean. So I think it's pretty standard joke of boys. I'm thinking to like Tom Sawyer period,
Yeah.
fishing the frogs out and playing with them and like
Mhm.
teasing them and stuff like that. And the housekeeper is like, going after the kids for like, I need that frog, dang it. Anyhow, I wonder if like that's the idea, like just eat the
Eat the
frog. I found
frog.
the frog in the milk. Eat the
See,
frog.
but
I don't know.
this is the thing though, like, though it may increase the longevity of the milk, to what end though? How bad
Like
does
you
that
won,
milk
bro,
taste?
but at what cost?
The milk tastes utterly atrocious, but it lasts 5 weeks.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what's the frog consuming?
Do you know
And
what I
it's
mean?
lying there in the milk all day. And
There's no way it doesn't affect the taste. So
I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying,
yeah,
whatever. Okay, so maybe I
there
just don't eat the milky frog.
yeah. So whatever that, yeah, eating the frog. I don't know how that. So that makes sense, but there must be like another because even like eating the frog wouldn't effectively help.
I mean,
you
the
in
French
any
would be
sense.
like, "Oh, maybe
Just eat the frog."
Eat the frog. A little pepper is delicious.
Yeah,
Not a
for them,
problem over here.
It's not a hard thing at all. Just eat the frog.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of went that. There's a line like we have to get out this militaristic sense that it's not always just like pick yourself by your bootstraps, knock it off, smack your head around. Like, yeah, there's times to like get up, do the hard. But I think we were saying like the for us especially like in the work sense that we're in, start with a small win, then build. Like do the easy thing first, so you could build some momentum to do the hard thing. I could take that as a
Because it takes a huge amount of energy. Okay, how do I say this? And I think this might be the difference between neurotypicals and
divergent.
divergent neurospicy people, which is, I think, as a neurodivergent, I can speak authoritatively on neurotypicals.
Speak for us all.
Yeah, but when a typical faces a problem, I think that there's not much going on internally in the sense of I either do it or I don't do it. And it's just a matter of like when. But
Mhm.
with the neurodivergent though, like when I look at a task I don't want to do, everything in me goes, we're not doing that. Here's all the reasons. I'm
Yeah.
shutting off all the energy reserves
Mhm.
because I don't want to do it. So the amount of energy that then has to be expended into literally overwhelming yourself and
Yeah.
forcing yourself to go and do the thing means that by the end of it, typical might be able to walk away and go, I just had a great day. The neurodivergent will be absolutely burnt out by the end of that massive task because you not only had to do the task, you also had to overcome
Yeah.
everything in yourself. Now, I say all of that because it's not that you're a failure as a human being to get the job done. It's like, no, there's actually, we
No.
evolved differently to adapt and present to environment and situations differently. And this is a
Yeah.
good thing. And putting everybody in the same factory line of how to get work done,
Mhm.
we never evolved for that line of thinking. We never developed. That's not
Mhm.
how human beings are supposed to be here. So there was a video I watched ages back, and I can't remember the video. I just remember the advice. And it was that your reaction, okay, I'm going to add the clarity. So first, what they said, your reaction and that sort of internal response that you have towards things can be a phenomenal, it's like a compass, and it's constantly orienting you throughout
Mm.
life to decide,
Yep.
is this worth my time? Is this not worth my time? Do I believe in this? Do I not believe in this? Because if you don't believe in something, you won't do it, which is why it's insanely hard for like my personality type to do something inauthentic. It is the hardest thing possible to do something I do not believe in, and I
Oh,
will
yeah.
burn out and shut down for ages, if there's no other choice but I have to do it. Now, I'm going to throw the caveat that there's a difference, I think, between being like in touch with what you actually think and then just actually being lazy or
Yes.
being
Yep.
having learned helplessness and
Yes. I agree.
not doing the thing because you just haven't skilled up as a human being to
Yeah.
uh, know the
100%.
difference between either being just lazy or not doing something versus it is not true and authentic to how I actually
Mm-hmm.
understand myself.
Yeah.
And then it can sort of go the other way and like you become absolutely overly precious with yourself and self-indulgent and insufferable.
Yeah.
And so yes,
Balance.
there's always the balance with everything.
Uh-huh.
All of that being said, the neurodivergents have a much greater awareness of our internal state than most other people. And so it will be twice as hard. You're fighting a battle that is twice as hard as everybody else. And that's why eating the frog or biting the bullet is not necessarily a good
Sure.
idea.
That
But
makes
it's
sense.
build up the steam. You literally unlock everything. You
Mm-hmm.
put in more energy into the system. You build up more confidence. You get the creative, juice flowing. And then you can all of a sudden new things, new Easter eggs open up about the task that felt impossible before. You're now in
Mm.
motion. You can see new ways into it. You can understand, oh, I'm now not operating out of a survival mindset, but a broader, more creative, thriving mindset. And then it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to get into.
100%. One
There you go.
hundo
Hot take.
P. Yeah. Hot take. Don't do one quick one more.
Yeah, we've got
All
8 minutes. Let's do it.
right. I like this one, and I have my hot take to build off, and obviously want to hear yours. Your morning routine is lying to you and making you sad. And the way
Okay, where do you go with that?
I have two sides of this, as I typically do. I have the one side that I love routine, love structure, and I think that's very beneficial to have routine, structure, and something you
Until
do and commit
Thursday,
to.
and at that point, it's like
And it's F that.
everything off.
Yeah. No, I think because I'm coming off of my sense of like, I got it. You have to like optimize, optimize, optimize. And you look at your day as this thing to crack. Everything is about like you crack the code, hacks, life hack. Everything is like how you succeed. And there's a formula and there's a code. And I think the hot take I would have is that though there is goodness in routine and structure and you know, sticking to those, there's a dose of grace we have to give each other, ourselves, I should say. Like for me, I mean, maybe I'm just speaking myself, you know, the thought of like, oh, I have to wake up at 5 a.m., go for a morning run, do the rosary, pray, write an essay before I wake up the kids and make them breakfast. Like, whoa, chill you know what, out. Like, it's like, have a purpose in the morning, sure, but give yourself some grace. Like, if you wake up in the morning, like, I woke up at 6:30, didn't go for a walk, prayed only one decade. Like, okay, you're still doing it. You're there. And I think how, to end your day. So the morning routine, it's like there's no perfect formula. There's each day, and each day is different. Some days look similar, but they're not all the same code. Each day is different. So I think that's why I'm saying like, the morning routine's lying to you that you don't need this perfect formula for your day to be perfect. Perfect is not, there's no, that's not a term. It doesn't make sense because there is no perfect day. So throw that away. And that your morning routine is just your way that you start, and you can have a structure that you follow. But the days that you don't follow that does not mean your day is set up for failure. It, having good structure in the morning does allow good opportunity, but it doesn't necessarily mean your day is based upon that and that your day crumbles if it's not
Yeah,
so, especially with kids. Because
yeah,
you have kids, you have 1 to 10 kids, doesn't matter. You like that's so many times you have your set time. I'm gonna wake up at 5, I'm gonna do this, do that. Kid wakes up at 4:49 crying and throwing up. You're like, okay, well, guess the day is different. So to kind of like roll with the punch, roll with the go with the flow, roll with the punches. So yeah,
yeah. Punches.
roll with the flow.
Yeah, you said something last week that actually I've taken to heart and been trying to practice, which was take a moment to grieve the loss of
Yeah.
whatever it is you were expecting. Just simply pay attention to it. Allow it to just be sad and you didn't get what you want. Allow that moment and then get back to doing whatever you need to do. And as opposed to just brushing it under, it's like, so I've been trying to do that. And I think that seems like a psychologically healthy, spiritually healthy thing to be doing.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, and to not take, I heard that from our dear friend Chris. So, like, just taking that spiritualism because we forget that there's an inner child that's always there. And then when that inner child doesn't get what it wants, it's not to give it the backhand. It's like, I'm sorry that didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just take that moment to be there and say, okay, the rest of the day will proceed, but I didn't, that was sad. And like, but by brushing the rug, then you have, like me, weeks later, and you're like, at this built up, pent up sadness and anger, and it all just manifests. You're like, where'd this come from? Like, well, you just been neglecting yourself for weeks on end, and all these moments just add
Yeah.
up.
So, yeah, the comment earlier about like Thursday being a crazy day because we're trying to keep schedule and stuff. I'm only kidding about Thursday, but
No, but yeah.
not in principle because there's a line of thinking I don't know what to do with, and it intrigues me, which is um, it's partly related to the idea of Jubilee from the Old
Okay.
Testament, which is
Yep.
like, gosh, what was it? Every 40 years, something like culture hits the reset button and
Yeah.
all debts and all,
Okay.
I think it's primarily around debt, is completely canceled. All
Yeah.
properties go back to their original owners or something. If it's all been, bankrupted or like whatever, everybody gets a reset, everybody gets a fresh
Yeah.
start. And
Yep.
then every, I don't know, there's a Jubilee of Jubilees, which is like, I don't know, every 7 times 40 years, or I don't know. It's like, and then there's like a big thing where the whole country does it or something like this. It's a big deal. There's a point why it interests me because it's the idea of like injecting chaos basically into an overcalcified system. And everything gets hardened and hardened by here's the rules
Yeah.
and the rituals and here's the
Yep.
habits and here's the things you must do and so on. And then a point comes where you can't breathe or live because you're under a lattice, a layers of a mesh of everything that must be done. And so at some point, something breaks and there's like chaos re-injected and everything sort of readjusts and then we sort of start
Yeah.
again. There's this medieval festival or celebration. I cannot remember what it's called. It's like the Fools Festival or Festival of Fools or something. And maybe they went overboard with it, but the idea was on this like one day, everybody literally went sort of crazy. And now I don't know if this was everywhere. Um, I don't know exactly who did it. I just know that this was something that was done at some points. So taken with a grain of salt. Um, but the idea was that for like one day, everybody, it was not like the purge, but everybody did everything sort of crazy that they wanted to. Everything
Okay.
was flipped
Yep.
upside down. You know, all of the poor people got to pretend like maybe they were rich, and the rich people got to pretend they were nuts, and donkeys were pretended to be the king or something like that. And they would probably, I think I remember reading, they would climb up on the altars in the cathedrals and they would dance around and they would, do all the wrong things in all the wrong places. Now, I'm not saying that was a good thing or not. But I think I remember a psychologist making the point that this was like a pressure valve in the human psyche
Yeah.
because when you create an overly structured society, there comes a point where you get this buildup of like creative tension, human sort of tension that needs to be released. And today you might charge a ticket to a rage room for it.
Yeah.
uh, Something that is overly structured that has no room or breathing room for a little bit of chaos is a system that's doomed to failure because
Yeah.
it doesn't honor or respect the fact that um, life needs a bit of chaos to be able to grow. Because life itself, how do you say this? You're imposing human thought forms on how life grows. Jordan Peterson likes to quote, I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about um, some of, can't remember, some Russian philosopher or author, where he was saying, if we ever created the perfect utopia and gave everybody everything they needed, completely satisfied their lives, within a few years, people will go and start torching and destroying everything just to see what would happen because too much order and too much like
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
So, is there's something weird or
Yeah.
wrong? And it's like a reverse, hellishness. Well, I'm saying all of that to say we do like we structure our mornings and we structure our days. because
Yeah.
we do need structure. But I
Sure.
think this is one reason why there is a Sunday day that is not only a psychological necessity, it's also a spiritual necessity because psyche and spirit are the same one thing. But we do that because it's the one day out of all days of the week where we just do everything different and we completely break with the normal flow of every day and we eat different foods and we do different things and we don't maybe talk to the same people and maybe we go and commune with the gods and the
Yeah.
angels and the spirits and we receive, communion and liturgy and we do all the stuff that maybe is ultimately meaningful and um just that idea of like a psychic pressure valve. There's sometimes it's I think, okay, where am I going with all this? As individuals, like you and me, when your life becomes too overly rigid and structured, because there's a lot of people depending on you to stay alive, there comes a point where you can feel bogged down and burnt out and overwhelmed. And at some point, either the chaos is going to break out like Jurassic Park, whether you want it to or not. And
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
probably not, nobody wants to be around for that. So maybe
No.
we should find our own ways. And I don't
Yep.
have an answer yet for this. I'm just thinking this through. Have our own ways of intentionally releasing that. And maybe it's
Yeah.
just like allowing, like you said, stuff breaks down, grieve it,
Yep.
move on, have a different
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe take a vacation. But
That'd be great. Yeah.
well, I think we should probably wrap there. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we covered some good stuff, and the fact that we could leave with some good messages of love one another, and not give yourself some grace, give yourself some hope, give yourself some love. What better things we end on?
I think so. So, friends, if this was helpful, go ahead and drop a comment. Say why, how, what you would argue with, what you'd like us to chat about next time. I think it'd be really fun to see what you think, see where we're wrong. Go ahead and correct us. We're two dads trying to figure it out. Like we say, we're hunter-blatherers. We don't get to actually go out and actually hunt anything anymore. I saw a reel of a guy walking through a supermarket with a bow and arrow, shooting a frozen chicken, putting in. It's like, are we
That's
reduced to
us,
that? It's like, I don't want to be that.
digital hunters.
There
Yeah.
you go. If we talk loud enough for long enough, maybe people give money to us or something. We're hunting people's goodwill. All right. Have a great rest of your week, friends. Happy Easter if you're watching this around then. And we will, God willing, see you next week.